Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Edith. I will be moderating today's lecture on weight loss strategies and IIH. We are going to discuss everything you need to know, from medications to healthy habits to some strategies that we think will help anyone in general, whether you are trying to lose weight or whether you just want to live a healthy lifestyle. We brought on Miss Rebecca Washuta to come give us a nice lecture on this. She has great experience as a licensed dietitian nutritionist. She's been featured on a lot of awesome places like USA Today. And I'm going to ask everyone, if they don't mind, to just mute themselves. Go ahead and feed any questions you have through the chat. As I've promised on every monthly webinar, I will get to your questions. We'll feed them through as Rebecca's giving her lecture. Some of them I'll hold to the end, but if you could just keep your mics muted, we will be live recording so that this can be posted on our YouTube for you to watch over and over again if you have any questions. So I'd like to give the mic over to Miss Rebecca and hear what you have to say for this morning.
Great. Thank you so much, Edith. Well, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you all for joining. And like Edith said, this can be a little bit more interactive. So if you have questions as I'm going through the presentation, you can pop them in the chat and we can hopefully get them answered for you. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and then we'll jump in. Okay. So today we are going to be discussing weight loss strategies and IIH. And like Edith said, we want to cover everything for you, from medications like the GLP-1's that have recently flooded the market, to also healthy habits and some strategies that you can all use to improve your health. So here are the things we are going to cover today. We're going to look at weight management in general and how it connects to IIH. We're going to address some of the contributing factors. And then we're going to look at the new GLP-1 drugs. We're going to talk about pros and cons. If they are something you are interested in taking, we're going to talk about what you need to speak with your healthcare provider about, things that you need to know before you get on these medications, and also how to wean off these medications if you do start them. And then we are also going to pivot into habits. So habits is something I'm very passionate about. I think having healthy habits is really important for long-term health and especially for long-term weight maintenance. So we're specifically going to talk about how you can quickly and efficiently develop habits. And then we'll put it all together in the end and answer any questions that we didn't address. So thank you for the lovely intro, Edith. Just wanted to provide a little bit about my background. I'm a board certified state licensed dietitian. I have my own private practice here in South Florida, and I specialize in weight loss and metabolic conditions. So nutrition was a career change for me. Previous to this, I was in pharmaceutical sales. I had a lucrative job, and then in my late 20s, I felt like I wanted to make the shift to nutrition. I really was interested in not just managing disease, but working with people to prevent disease and promote health. And nutrition has really allowed me to do that. So it's something I'm very passionate about. Again, it's not something that I fell into. It was an intentional career change. And I think my background in pharmaceutical sales really gives me an interesting perspective, especially when we talk about the GLP-1 drugs today. So let's talk a little bit about weight management. If you are struggling to manage your weight, you're not alone. More than 70% of Americans are considered overweight or obese, and this has nothing to do with being lazy. This has nothing to do with lack of willpower. In fact, more than half of Americans report that they've actually tried to lose weight in the last year. So people are trying and just aren't successful. So the truth is, overweight and obesity are complex conditions that are caused by a number of factors, and it's not as simple as calories in, calories out. Moving forward in this presentation, I'm going to be referring to obesity as adiposity-based chronic disease. This is a new term that doctors and researchers are using, and it's more comprehensive. It characterizes obesity as a chronic condition, which it is, and really encompasses the complexity of the disease. So you'll hear me saying that or just referring to it as ABCD moving forward. So let's take a look at why maintaining a healthy body weight is so important. Excess body weight can put you at risk for a number of chronic diseases like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, kidney disease, osteoarthritis, specific cancers, and even IIH. And that's why we're all here today. So let's take a deeper look at the connection between IIH and weight management. Studies have shown that the risk of IIH increases as BMI increases. Symptoms of IIH, like vision problems, can also worsen with excess weight. So research has shown that people that have a BMI over 40 are at an increased risk for vision loss, which is one of the more serious symptoms associated with IIH. Even moderate weight gain of 5% can increase your risk of developing IIH. But the good news is the opposite is true. So weight loss as little as 3% can put you into remission. What's super important here, though, is that this weight loss needs to be long-term, because what they have found that if you're yo-yo dieting and your weight is going up and down, your risk of the disease reoccurring increases. So yes, you can fall into remission with weight loss, but if you gain weight, there's a chance of IIH coming back. So it really needs to be, we need to focus on long-term changes, not just fad diets, not just temporary weight loss. I want to talk about some of the factors that contribute to adiposity-based chronic disease. Again, I want to emphasize that it is more than just calories in, calories out, and there's factors that are both in control and outside of your control, but I think it's important to highlight all of them to really emphasize what a complex condition it is. So genetics definitely plays a role in excessive weight gain. Science has showed this, and I think we all have probably witnessed this in our own lives. Everyone has a friend or a family member that can eat whatever they want and they never gain weight. So genetics does play a role in that. Scientists have actually found that there are hundreds of genes that are associated with abnormal weight gain. So again, all that to say, if you are someone who struggles with managing your weight, there is a genetic component to it, and that's not your fault. It's outside of your control. Diet obviously plays a huge role in this condition. It's something I'm passionate about as a nutritionist, but I want to really emphasize here that it's not just the quantity of the calories, it's also the quality of the food that you're consuming. So the diets like the ketogenic diet, they're effective and they work because they are helping to balance your hormones. And so this isn't something that I'm promoting, but I use the ketogenic diet as an example because it's not a low-calorie diet, right? So it's very clear that weight gain is about more than just calories. It's also about the quality of your food and how that's impacting your hormones. And so diet can be seen as a behavioral factor, right? The foods that we choose to eat. But if you're someone who lives in a more rural area and you don't have access to fresh fruit and vegetables, then diet can also be an environmental factor, right? Where you're not able to get access to healthy foods. Exercise is another very important factor when we look at excessive weight gain. Not only can it support weight loss, but engaging in exercise, if you are someone who has ABCD, engaging in exercise can reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease, cancer, and all-cause mortality. That's death by any cause, even if the scale doesn't change. So just getting active is super, super important for your health, regardless of what the scale says. when we look at population studies, and researchers have tracked participants over decades, and we look at people who have lost weight and been able to keep that weight off, the number one predictor is a regular exercise routine. So having a regular exercise team is really, really important, and something that everyone should be thinking about. Stress is something we all struggle with, and unfortunately it's a double-edged sword when it comes to weight gain. So stress can impact us in two ways. The first way is when we're stressed, we're more likely to reach for comfort foods, right? We're more likely to overeat or binge eat. And the second way is that physiologically, it's messing with our hormones. So it's going to cause our blood sugar to rise, it's going to cause cortisol to rise, it's going to cause insulin to rise, and that can all contribute to weight gain. So stress has both a psychological effect and a physiological effect, and combined, that can really lead to excess weight gain. Environmental toxins are something that aren't addressed quite as often, but I thought they were important to highlight here. So this is referring to outdoor environmental toxins like pollution, but also indoor. If you're using certain cleaning products, or if there are a lot of synthetic fragrances in the products in your home, those can act as endocrine disruptors and wreak havoc on your hormones, which can also lead to weight gain. So something that you definitely want to be mindful of. And then the last one here is sleep. I think this is probably the most underrated factor when it comes to weight gain. Sleep can modulate neuroendocrine functions and glucose metabolism. So it plays a direct role in how effective and efficient your metabolism is. Poor sleep has actually shown to decrease insulin sensitivity, which can lead to insulin resistance, which then can lead to type 2 diabetes and a host of metabolic issues. Research has also shown that poor sleep can increase levels of ghrelin, which is our hunger hormone. So it naturally causes us to feel more hungry, and it can decrease levels of leptin, which is our fullness hormone. So causing us to be less satisfied and crave more food. And so this has been demonstrated even in animal models, where if they take a mouse and they create the mouse in a way where it can't produce leptin in its body, that mouse will naturally be overweight because it doesn't have the hormone to tell it to stop eating. And so, all of these factors combine to add to this complex disease. And, while some things like genetics is outside of your control, there are some things that are inside your control. And I think that is empowering. And that's what I want to talk about today, that there are some changes we can make, and we don't have 100% control, but if we take a look at certain things like diet, exercise, stress, sleep, we do have some control to make healthy changes in our lives and reap those benefits. So you cannot talk about weight loss these days without talking about GLP-1 drugs. They're flooding the market. I'm sure everyone knows someone taking Ozempic or a similar drug right now. And I know a lot of people are wondering if this drug could be right for them. In my own private practice, I would say about half of my clients are taking these drugs. And so I think it's important to address the pros and the cons, and just make sure everyone has a clear picture of how these drugs work and what the potential side effects are. So these drugs have been shown to be effective. They've been clinically proven to not only help you lose weight and lower your blood sugar, but they can also reduce the risk of cardiovascular events like stroke and heart attack. So that's fantastic. The drawbacks are less talked about than all of the benefits of taking these drugs. So some of the side effects are just unpleasant, like nausea or constipation or fatigue, but other side effects that are less common are very serious. Things like pancreatitis, things like thyroid cancer. It seems like there are doctors out there who are sort of giving out these drugs like candy, and it's just really important for you as a patient to be informed and to go to your doctor with these questions and really be able to see if this is the right move for you. So most people assume that they can try drugs like Ozempic, and they can use them until they reach their goal weight, and then they'll stop the medication. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. In order to maintain their weight loss, patients typically need to continue taking the drug. In fact, one study found that after a year of stopping the medication, the average patient gained back 66% of the weight they lost. So in my mind, even though these types of drugs have shown to have these great benefits, if when you stop taking the drug, you gain all the weight back, it's similar to just being on a fad diet, right? Or being on a crash diet. And really what we're looking for, again, what we talked about in the beginning with IIH is we want that long-term sustainable weight loss. We don't want to be yo-yoing because then the disease could reoccur. So what they're finding now is that the reason that people are gaining weight and gaining it back so fast after they stop the drugs is because they're not just losing fat, they're losing muscle. So I'll get into some of the mechanisms on how the drug works in the next slide, but if you don't know anyone taking these drugs, basically what it does is it significantly reduces your appetite. So patients who are taking these drugs eat significantly less. And so that's obviously going to make you lose weight, but if you're not pairing that with an exercise routine or really prioritizing protein in your diet, then you're going to lose muscle. And so muscle is metabolically active. Muscle it naturally burns calories. It can help regulate your metabolism. And so if you lose muscle, then once you stop the drug, your body is naturally going to be burning less calories. So it's going to be really easy to regain that weight. And I think that's something that's really important to highlight, that it's not just how much weight are people losing. We want to look at how much fat, how much adipose tissue are people losing, because especially as we get older, losing muscle is associated with a number of chronic conditions like sarcopenia and other things that we need to really be concerned about. So losing muscle is not the goal. Losing weight, it should be very specific that we're targeting adipose tissue, we're targeting fat. And so one thing I recommend to clients, especially when they're taking these drugs, is they have smart scales on the market now, which are very reasonably priced. You can find them on Amazon for $50, and they use bioelectrical impedance to look at your body fat percentage, your body muscle, your body water, and that's really important. I think in any weight loss journey, that's important because you want to be able to see what's changing, or if you're working really hard and maybe the scale isn't matching your hard work, well, maybe you've gained muscle, and so that muscle weighs more than fat. It's going to cause you to it's going to cause the number on the scale not to go down. So I think having those extra data points, knowing like, hey, I'm up a pound today, but my body water is up, or really being able to target your body fat and having those data points is important, whether you're on these drugs or really on any weight loss journey. So that's definitely something I recommend checking out. So let's talk about potentially weaning off these drugs. If you do decide to take these drugs, it's important to know how long you intend to be on them and the potential side effects of stopping. So in order to better understand the problems that can arise when you stop this medication, let's walk through how these drugs work. So these drugs are known as GLP-1's, and that stands for glucagon-like peptide 1 receptor agonists. So GLP-1's is obviously less of a mouthful, but this medication is binding to GLP-1 receptors in our body, and that's how it's lowering blood glucose. And this is specifically how it works once it binds to these receptors. It's triggering the pancreas to release more insulin, so that's going to lower our blood sugar. And it's also going to slow down digestion in the stomach. So this is called gastric emptying. It's going to slow down gastric emptying. It's going to keep your food in your stomach longer, which is going to make you feel fuller longer. And that's part of the reason why people are eating less. It's also going to prevent your liver from releasing glucose into the bloodstream. So your liver plays a big role in your metabolism as well. And it's going to prevent the natural release of glucose into the bloodstream, which is going to balance your blood sugar. But when you stop taking these medications, your blood sugar can spike, and then you can struggle to, control your blood glucose. Your appetite is going to increase. You will naturally gain weight, even if it's just, even if you're very adamant when you first stop taking the drugs, it's natural to gain at least a couple pounds. And it's also been found to increase blood pressure. It can increase cholesterol, and people have found that some of their inflammatory markers are increased as well after stopping these drugs.
Rebecca, I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind. I
Yeah.
have a question from Marie. She wants to know, do you have nutritional and muscle standard tests that you recommend having drawn and checked for? Specifically because, you know, some people think like a malnutrition is what you see on TV in Africa, for example.
Yeah.
And really, sometimes people may, to the visual eye, look okay, maybe in clothes, but really, or even, with a higher BMI, but actually being malnourished. So do you have any tests you would want someone to maybe go ask their practitioner to have checked for them?
Yeah, 100%. And I just want to expand upon what you said. A lot of times people struggling with excess weight do have malnutrition, and you're continuing to crave food because you're deficient in nutrients. You're eating food, but maybe you're not getting the nutrients you need, and so your body is continuing to increase your hunger hormones. So 100%, that's something I recommend for all of my clients. Unfortunately, traditional healthcare providers, a traditional GP is not gonna want to run a full vitamin, mineral, nutrient panel. It's something I do with my clients, so I would recommend you find either a dietitian nutritionist, or you look for a functional medicine doctor, because they will run through the tests with you. Or maybe if you have a really great relationship with your doctor, you can ask them to run those panels. But they're not common, and so I think a lot of doctors either aren't knowledgeable about them or aren't comfortable with them. But for instance, what I do with my clients is it's a urine sample. So I ship them the kit, they take the sample at home, they send it in, and then it gives you a full micronutrient assessment where it's going to look at all your vitamins and minerals. And then hey, because otherwise you're sort of throwing spaghetti at the wall, right? Even if you're taking multivitamins, how do you know what to take? You'd be surprised. I live in South Florida, and a lot of my clients are deficient in vitamin D, and it's sunny here, 11 months out of the year. So I think people would be surprised by that, but it's worth doing. It's definitely worth doing.
And I have another question for you from Miss Nicole. I'm just going to read her message out loud so everyone has a little bit of a background story. So we featured Nicole I think 2 months ago. We did a chat series, and she was awesome on telling us about her story and navigating through the healthcare system. She has had IIH for 2 years now, and she just learned that bilateral venous sinus stenosis was her case. Her question is how those on GLP-1s can maintain proper nutrition if they struggle with nausea and other side effects. As someone who has had zero appetite from Diamox, a common IH med, I'm not eating much, and I have vitamin B deficiency for the first time in my life. I'm also nowhere near my protein goals, but I can't force myself to eat when I feel unwell.
Oh, that's hard. That's hard. I get that. There's a couple strategies in general to deal with nausea. But specifically with these drugs, some people find that if they take them, say, at night instead of in the morning, if they do the injections at night, they're less likely to feel the nausea. So sometimes it's a little bit of a trial and error. If you're feeling nauseous, it's the opposite of what I would recommend to the general population. It is small, frequent meals. So you're not going to be able to sit down and eat a full meal with protein. You need to sort of sneak it in when you can. And the other important thing to remember is you're going to want to pair it with carbohydrates, because they can actually help soothe the nausea. So always have some type of carbohydrate and along with the protein. And you want to try to eat small, frequent meals. So whatever that looks like for you, if that is, eating every 2 or 3 hours, whatever you can get down. But it's great you're being conscious of the protein intake. And some people find that maybe solid foods make their stomach upset, but smoothies are okay. Smoothies and shakes are a great way to get in nutrients and vegetables, and even liquid vitamins if the actual pill makes you feel nauseous. I know a lot of people too, if they're already feeling nauseous, the last thing you want to do is take a supplement. So they do have a lot of liquid forms of that. It's not easy. It's great that you're being conscious of it. I think small, frequent meals, remembering that carbohydrates help. Carbohydrates are not the enemy, especially when it comes to nausea. And then, really working with a nutritionist to personalize a plan for you to make sure you're finding different ways to get the nutrients you need.
Thank you so much.
Was that it for the questions, Edith?
That I can see now. Just Paige is saying hi, welcome, and she's excited to learn about the benefits of GLP-1s for IIH patients.
Yay. Okay, great. So, so getting back to this slide, stopping GLP-1s comes with another host of complications. And so it's an important thing to talk to your doctor about. You want to go in as an informed patient and be able to have a conversation and not just have your doctor write you a script and say, I'll see you in 3 months, because these are really powerful drugs. They're impacting your metabolism. And you want to be mindful about how it's going to affect your body. So how can you safely use GLP-1 drugs? Again, you want to have a conversation with your healthcare provider. And I also think it's important to set a goal for the length of time you'd like to be on the drug. So because these are newer drugs, research is limited on the long-term effects, right? It's new. Have decades and decades of research. And so I think the shorter you can be on these drugs, the better. You want to be able to reach your weight loss goal and then slowly wean off of them. But in order to do that, and in order to maintain the weight that you've lost, I think it's very important to work with a nutritionist so you can make sure you're not deficient in nutrients as you're eating less, that you teach yourself how to eat, right? Because if the minute you get off these drugs, you're going back to the way you were eating before, you're just going to gain the weight back. You need to learn how to eat the foods and eat in the way that's right for your body. And then I also think working with a personal trainer is important, even just initially, right? A couple of sessions just to understand the type of exercises that will really benefit you, because exercise is what's going to help you build muscle, and muscle is what's also going to help you regulate that metabolism. So on these drugs, we want to be very cautious about not losing muscle mass and just losing fat. So working with a personal trainer, getting that regular physical activity in, getting a routine in place, so then when you stop the drugs, you can continue on and maintain that weight loss. And in addition to that, I think establishing healthy habits is ultimately the best way to maintain the weight loss. And this goes for healthy habits around exercise, healthy habits around eating, but also around sleep, right? We talked about all these other factors, sleep and stress, that play a role in weight gain. And so, a lot of times when clients come to me, they think we're just going to talk about diet, and they're surprised that we talk about all of these other areas. And it's because they all play a significant role in weight gain. So it's important to have healthy habits, not only around exercise and diet, but also in these other areas. And so what I really focus on with my clients is how to quickly and efficiently build healthy habits so that, regardless of whether you take the GLP-1 drug, whether you go on a diet, whatever, once you've transitioned off of that, you're able to maintain those results because you have these good habits, these good behaviors in place. So we're going to pivot now, and I'm going to talk more about habits. Why are habits so effective? And this is why I'm so passionate about habits. Habits are behaviors you do automatically that don't require thinking or decision making. So it completely removes willpower from the equation. A lot of people think if they want to reach a goal, whether it's losing weight or improving their health, it's all about willpower, and that's a myth. Willpower is something that increases and decreases based on a number of factors. Willpower is not consistent, and that's why habits are so important, because once you get a habit in place, a habit is consistent. So what we want is, we don't want there to be a debate about, should I go to the gym or should I not? We want to just do it, right? In the same way where you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you don't debate whether you're going to brush your teeth. You get up in the morning and you brush your teeth. You don't even think about it because it's a habit. We want some of our health behaviors to become as automatic as that. It's estimated that the average person has 80,000 thoughts per day, and 2/3 of those are decisions. We're constantly making decisions all day long, right? Whether it's, what do I have for breakfast? What do I wear today? Which route should I drive to work? And that, really is taxing on our brains. There's a real truth behind decision fatigue, where sometimes you just can't make any more decisions. And so having habits in place is going to allow you to not think about them, not rely on willpower, and just engage in these healthy behaviors. So habits are what you need to reach your goals, and good habits are what shape your behavior and can change your life. So I've leveraged the latest research in neuroscience, psychology, and behavior change, and developed a framework to make habit formation as quick and efficient as possible. This is something I use with all of my clients, and today I'm going to talk to you about one of these pillars. If we have time, we can jump into the others, but today I'm going to talk to you about emotions and how you can leverage this to quickly create habits. And one thing that Edith said in the beginning is, we can use these tools and these strategies that I'm going to share with you to create habits around diet and exercise, but I want you to be able to use them for anything, right? If you want to create a habit of reading more before bed, right? Watching less TV, whatever. These work for anything. So these are good for improving your health, but really just optimizing your life in general. So let's talk about emotions. Research has shown that it's not time or repetition that allows you to effectively form lasting habits. I know a lot of people say, if you do something for 30 days, it'll become a habit. The science doesn't back that up. So what they found is that it's our feeling about the new activity that reinforces it. So if you find a new behavior satisfying, you're actually engaging your brain's reward pathways, and that works by releasing dopamine. So as we all know, dopamine is known as the feel-good neurotransmitter. Not only does it boost your mood and attention, but it also strengthens the connections between the neurons, and that physically changes the synapses and makes that behavior easier to do in the future. So there's two, I'm a neuroscience major, so I'm just going to quickly highlight two neural pathways, but I won't get too deep into the science. So there's two pathways called the mesolimbic and the mesocortical pathways, and they're the primary systems responsible for creating and releasing dopamine. And these pathways are involved in behavior and memory and learning and motivation, which, are also involved in forming a new habit. So dopamine plays a huge role in habit formation, and I don't think this really gets enough press. So when dopamine is released in these pathways, it actually acts as Miracle-Gro, right, for the synapses, and it strengthens the connections between the neurons, which makes it easier for these neurons to fire together in the future. So the brain is hardwired to repeat rewarding behaviors. And this is true because if we look at our ancestors, many naturally rewarding behaviors were responsible for our survival, right? So finding social connection with a tribe, that's a rewarding behavior that we actually needed. And so it feels good, and that's part of the reason why we've evolved in a way where our brain can wants to repeat behaviors that are naturally rewarding. Think about it like eating food. A lot of our ancestors struggled with famine, so eating food feels good, and it's another rewarding behavior that our brain helps to strengthen the connection between those neurons, because it's important for our survival. So to sum that up, if a certain behavior makes you feel good, you're more likely to do it again. The brain reinforces connections that allow rewarding behaviors to take place. So pleasurable feelings reinforce behavior. So let's look at an example. If you are in your kitchen and you eat a cookie, this feels good, dopamine will be released, and this is actually going to strengthen the connection between the neurons that helped you eat that cookie, and it's going to be more likely to eat more cookies in the future. So you're strengthening this reward pathway, and your brain is ensuring that this behavior will be repeated moving forward. And so this is part of the reason why it is so easy to fog eat or mindlessly eat, right? I'm sure we've all been in the kitchen with a bag of chips or, a sleeve of cookies, and if you're on your phone or you're distracted, you can just fog eat or mindlessly eat, and it happens almost automatically. And that's because dopamine has worked in a way in our brain that has reinforced the connection between those neurons, and it made the behavior almost automatic. So even without us consciously deciding I'd like to eat another cookie, this pleasurable behavior is just taking place almost under your nose, right? Even if you're not paying attention. So while this is unfortunate when it comes to junk food, we can actually leverage this same strategy to make healthy behaviors automatic. So let's look at how we can use our brain's natural reward pathway to create new habits. This seems intuitive, but I can't tell you how important it is. Start by choosing things you actually like to do or you don't hate. And so if you want to develop, let me give you an example. If you want to develop the habit of exercising, but you hate running, don't start with running, right? Start with anything else. Start with karate or kung fu or spinning or yoga or whatever. But I think, every January, people say, I want to get in shape, I'm going to start running. But if you hate running, you're working against yourself, right? Because if you enjoy an activity, you're naturally engaging your brain's reward pathways, and it's going to make that behavior more easily into a habit. So if you start, your year off by dragging yourself on runs, it's an uphill battle, and you're essentially working against yourself. So once you've made, if we're sticking with exercise as the example, once you've made exercise into a habit, you can pivot and replace, say, dance with some runs. But trying to start a brand new behavior, trying to develop a brand new habit by doing something you hate is working against yourself. And so we want to make things as easy as possible for ourselves. Start with something you like. So the same thing is true with eating healthy. If you don't find salads appealing, find another way to get vegetables in, right? Roast them, saute them, put them in a smoothie. Find a way that you enjoy it, because if you enjoy something, you engage your brain's reward pathways, and it's going to more easily become a habit. So let's look at another example. This one is body feedback. And this is important if you want to make a habit out of something maybe you don't love or hate, right? So let's take drinking water, for example. I think everyone could be drinking more water. Most people don't hate drinking water, but they just sort of forget, they don't have time for it. They're not really interested. So if we think back to how increased dopamine accelerates habit formation, we can look at ways to naturally increase dopamine to sort of trick our brains into thinking that we like an activity. So a couple things that back this up are associated with body feedback. If you've ever heard that if you bite on a pen or a pencil and you smile, that you actually will feel happier, it's because your brain is constantly monitoring what's going on in your body. And it takes cues from things like muscle tension, posture, heart rate, breathing, to understand the environment and understand how it should feel. So another example of this is a researcher out of Harvard, Amy Cuddy, found that if you're taking high power pose stances in a meeting or in a corporate setting, so if you are doing this or putting your hands on your hips, if you're making yourself look bigger as opposed to, sort of shrinking, poor posture, crossing your arms, if you make yourself look bigger, you naturally feel more confident. So we can use these ideas to sort of trick our brains into thinking that we like an activity, release dopamine, leverage those natural reward pathways, and then more easily make something a habit. So one thing I suggest to my clients is that they physically celebrate after they perform a behavior that they want to make into a habit, because this causes your brain to interpret the behavior as something positive, and it reinforces the connections between the neurons, making it more easily to be repeated in the future. And so I know this can feel silly, but what I like to tell clients is if you went to the mailbox today and you saw a check from the IRS and you opened it up and it was for $10,000, what would your reaction be? What is your natural way to physically celebrate? Is it hands up? Is it this? Is it, running in place? Whatever that is, whatever feels natural, that's what you should be doing. So when you get excited and celebrate after drinking a glass of water, your brain recognizes this celebration and it's going to strengthen the pathways involved to make the behavior that triggered the celebration, in this case the water, easier to do in the future. So again, I know that feels silly and your friends and family may laugh at you, but it really works. So after you drink a glass of water, you throw your hands up, you celebrate, you cheer, and then your brain is going to say, wow, we liked that behavior. And then drinking water is going to become more enjoyable and you're going to do it more often. So the second way you can leverage emotions to form habits is through rewards. Rewards act as positive reinforcements and are simple, effective ways to help you build healthy habits. The problem is most of us have a tendency to reward ourselves with food. And that's not our fault. I think that probably starts at a young age. I have a toddler and we're trying to do potty training right now. And I ended up, rewarding her with chocolate. It was the only way. So it's natural, right? Food is a part of how we celebrate, but we really want to try to detach from that. Because we want to find rewards that aren't counterproductive to our goals. So if you're trying to lose 10 pounds and after 2 weeks you lose 2 pounds, the reward shouldn't be a candy bar, right? The reward shouldn't be ice cream. The reward for that should be something that would help you get to your goal even faster. So is it a new workout clothes, a new water bottle? Or something that's more neutral, like a massage, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be something that's going to get you to your goal, but you definitely want something that's not going to move you further from your goal, like food. So I know for some of these rewards, especially like a massage, it's not something you can do every day, right? It's not something you can reward yourself with that frequently, but rewarding yourself after certain intervals, like after a specific number of achievements, is also a great way to increase motivation. So if you can treat yourself to a massage for sticking with your exercise plan all month, that also works to increase your motivation. Psychologists call this a fixed ratio reward schedule, and that works well to build habits. So it doesn't need to be a reward after every win, but it does need to be some type of reward at a fixed ratio interval that is not moving you further from your goal. So putting it all together, let's cover what we've discussed so far. Having a high BMI can put you at an increased risk of developing IIH, and that increases the risk of severe symptoms like vision loss. Weight loss, even as little as 3%, can lead to remission of symptoms, so it's really important to focus on. But we need to make sure that it's long-term weight loss, because if we gain the weight back, the risk of the disease reoccurring also increases. GLP-1 drugs are effective, but they also need to be coupled with diet and lifestyle changes for long-term results. And if you look on any of these websites, like for Ozempic or Mounjaro or some of these popular drugs, it says in every paragraph, this drug is FDA approved for weight loss or to reduce blood sugar when used in conjunction with a healthy diet and exercise routine. So, you know, even the pharmaceutical companies are emphasizing that. So it has to be more than just the drug. If you do take these drugs, you want to make sure you're working with a professional to help you reach your goals. By that, I mean a doctor, a nutritionist, a personal trainer. And at the same time, you want to be focused on building healthy habits, both around diet, exercise, sleep, stress, everything in the health sphere. It has to be a multi-pronged approach. And then you want to leverage some of the strategies we talked today to use the brain's natural reward pathways to make habit formation even easier. So that is all I had today. I'd love to answer any other questions that came in.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. That was awesome. I learned a lot. I love it. I do want to make a couple of points specifically about GLP-1s. You know, medications, even Tylenol, you know, not everyone can take Tylenol. Not everyone can take a GLP-1, even though they have a high BMI. There are a lot of risks associated with them. We don't even know some of them because they've only been on the market for, I mean, the first one since 2005, but really studies probably not until recently. You know, there's even risks of like suicide. There's been some reports, so we just don't really know. And also, unfortunately, with a lack of, you know, supply meeting demand, there are other companies out there in this world that are like, hey, let's throw together some compound or a pill or a cream or an injection and sell it as a GLP-1 like medication. And that comes with its own problems because some of the ingredients may be off, the percentage of the GLP-1 in there, you know, may be off, and it either doesn't work and you're throwing away your money, or you can get very sick. And it's very dangerous. GLP-1s have a very, very, very short half-life, I think 3 minutes. So it's really difficult to get a cream that has a GLP-1 that wouldn't just already automatically metabolize before it even hits your skin. So these are just some things to look out for, especially nowadays with social media, people targeting ads to people. You just have to be careful what's out there in today's world. So just be careful what you see. Sometimes something that is too good to be true probably is. I think I have a question here from Josephine. How can I manage a stroke patient with a high BMI is her question to you.
That's hard. So I'm assuming the stroke patient maybe isn't able to be active due to the injury. You definitely want to work with a team. You're definitely going to want to work with a physical therapist on that to, you know, make sure they're as active as possible. And then depending upon the severity of the stroke, like I know some people have dysphagia, have swallowing issues after a stroke. So working with a professional really is the best way because it has to be tailored to them. There's not going to be a cookie cutter approach. They have to have a tailored medical intervention working with a dietitian and a physical therapist.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. One more question, and I'll get back to the stroke question too. It says, for those with a history of trauma for which they use food as a coping mechanism, but working on dealing with this with a therapist, how can they focus on healthy eating and habit formation in a same way, which is not re-traumatizing for them?
Wow, that's such a great question, and kudos to you for being able to identify that. I think a lot of people have trauma, right? Life isn't easy for anyone. A lot of people can have trauma and they're not able to make that connection that's what's maybe driving them to overeat. So it's fantastic that you're already working with a therapist on that. My biggest recommendation here would be starting small. I think a lot of people, when it comes to lifestyle change, especially diet, think go big or go home, right? They're like, I'm going to do a juice cleanse. I'm going to do an all salad diet. And that never works. You have to focus on small wins. You have to focus on small changes that you can be consistent with. and think about what that looks like for you. Is that having the same type of healthy breakfast every day? Is it maybe trying to only have salads at lunch? Is it, but it has to be small. You can't try to overhaul your diet at once because it's not sustainable. So think about some small wins that you can give yourself. And again, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. So don't focus on a severely calorie deficient diet. You want to still be able to eat the foods that you love, just to do it more in moderation, to do it in a mindful way. I think that's another big issue now is whether we're eating dinner or eating lunch, we're usually in front of a screen, right? So our work computer screen, our phone, our TV screen, it causes us to be a lot less mindful about what we're eating. And then we do tend to overeat. So think about small things that you can incorporate and, give yourself some compassion because it's a marathon, not a sprint.
No, thank you so much for answering all these questions. Josephine, going back to the stroke question with the high BMI, some of the questions I would have is when did the stroke occur and what was their deficit? Also, if you want, you can message me through our either IG account or our website, and we can help you get through some of that and give you some good advice if that's helpful. I do want to say Rebecca has a really wonderful website called Happy Healthy Bites, the same IG handle. If you'd like to see her as a client, she works with people just like this, Zoom. You don't have to live in Florida. You can live anywhere, anytime. I'm sure she'd be happy to have you and work with you if you liked some of that. I thought your neuroscience stuff was fabulous. As a physician assistant myself doing surgery, I know nothing about that. So I definitely learned a lot. I do thank everyone for joining us today. We are very open to any topic we'd love to host for you, or if you have someone you know. IH Awareness Month is actually happening in September, so we plan on doing another chat session. So we'd love for you to do like maybe a AMA or a chat session or something like that. So let me see if I can get any more last minute questions here. Oh, this is a good question for you, Rebecca. Sorry, I have both screens up, so I'm like not looking in the phone right now. It says from Miss Renee, I'm really struggling with the fatigue. Unsure if it's from IH or the Diamox or both. Do you have any suggestions on exercises that are great when fatigue is an issue? Walking seems to be the only thing I can do right now, but open to more ideas. Thank you.
So walking, I think, is the most underrated physical activity on the planet. When we look at the people who live in these blue zones and live to 110, they're not running marathons, they're not bodybuilders, they're walking, they're moving their body all day. So my recommendation to you would be what we call exercise snacks. So instead of thinking about exercising for 30 minutes or exercising for 60 minutes, if you can exercise for 5 minutes, every hour, every 2 hours, that's great. You just want to get up and move your body as much as possible. Avoid sitting, for long periods of time. Exercise snacks are a really great way to help improve your energy. They can increase your mitochondria, right, which are the powerhouses of the cells. So, don't think about physical activity in an all or nothing way. If you can get 2 minutes in, that is better than nothing, right? It's cumulative. So if you can get in 2 minutes a day over the course of a week, okay, well, that adds up. Over the course of a month, that adds up. So the little things you can do, but definitely think about it in a way of a snack. It doesn't have to be a solid block of time. You can get 5 minutes in here, 5 minutes in there. That's excellent.
Yeah, I actually couldn't agree with you more. In fact, there is a process in our body called a NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. If you are really interested in some of that stuff, we have an article on our website about it, but to Rebecca's point, these snacks, which I think is a great term, I'm stealing that one from you. Simple things like going to your mailbox and getting the mail, or taking your dog for a walk if you have a dog, or standing maybe during, this Zoom meeting if possible. That's burning calories. It doesn't have to be a formal go to a class, start sweating, this sort of thing. You are burning calories doing everything, brushing your teeth, taking a shower, cooking, you name it. So definitely, if you want to learn a little bit more about that and some ideas of these snacks, then you could visit our article. And I hope I didn't miss anybody else's questions here. But if I missed anyone's questions or you want any more information, I put my email as well on the chat. Please feel free to reach out to us anytime. We're always available. I'm always on IG looking through for, anything. So you let me know. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
And
This is great.
yes, we hope to keep in touch. And if anyone has any ideas for any upcoming topics in the future, just go ahead and send us on our website and we'll try to get those topics to you. Well, everyone have a great day.